Good morning, everybody. I'm Paul Lisnick, and coming up on WGN TV Political Report.
This is a nightmare scenario.
How the pandemic has decimated Illinois' already shaky finances, plus proponents of the graduated income tax weigh in on its potential impact on the state budget.
I no longer shall tinker with the machinery of death.
20 years ago, he took a historic stand on capital punishment. We're talking with former Illinois Governor George Ryan about the lasting impact in Illinois and more. And later, the fight for the U.S. Senate. Can Democrats claw their way back to a majority in both chambers of Congress? We've got a closer look for you. But we begin this morning in Illinois. Governor J.B. Pritzker ringing alarm bells this week over what he called a financial nightmare scenario. After bleeding more than $6.5 billion in revenue since the start of the COVID-19 pandemic, the governor has begun to beg the federal government for help. But negotiations over stimulus money are still stalled in D.C., with the president refusing to pass money to Democratic-run states that he says he doesn't want to bail out. The consequence could lead to massive cuts, and soon.
Each of our cabinet members are identifying 5% cuts across all the agencies that they control.
As of now?
Right now, they're doing it. They are identifying those and will need to implement those if there is no action taken. When you include all of the cities and counties that are affected by this, we're literally talking about thousands of people who will get laid off.
The state's fiscal future hangs in the balance depending not only on Congress, but also Illinois voters. The very first thing you're going to see on your ballot this November is a proposed change to our state's constitution. If approved, the amendment would shift Illinois to what's called a graduated tax rate, meaning the more you make, the higher your tax rate. You've probably seen one of those pop up on TV in recent weeks, these ads.
If approved, it would let the politicians immediately implement their plan to increase taxes on small businesses, farmers, and large employers, and let them hike taxes on middle-income families next.
The truth? The fair tax has nothing to do with whether Springfield can raise your taxes. They already can. The fair tax makes it possible to charge millionaires and billionaires a higher tax rate than middle-class families.
What are we to believe? Millions of dollars in ad money is being spent to sway voters one way or the other. Governor Pritzker is eyeing the potential new revenue as a way to start shoring up a growing budget deficit. The state's current flat tax charges everybody at a rate of 4.95%. Everybody pays that. The General Assembly has already approved a set of rates to go with the amendment should it pass. Now, those new rates would start to jump above 7% for single and joint filers making $250,000 or above. The rates max out at just under 8% for single filers making more than $750,000 and joint filers earning more than $1 million a year. Quentin Fowlkes is the chairman of the Vote Yes for Fairness, the pro-graduated income tax committee fueled by Governor J.B. Pritzker. He's joining us this morning via Zoom. Quentin, good to see you. Appreciate your time.
You too. Thank you for having me on.
So I think one way to clear a lot of this up is that people need to understand there's two issues, right? That whether there should be a graduated income tax and whether that's good for Illinois or not, and then what the rates will be. Is that a fair line to draw?
That is a fair line to draw. I think so. I think it's important for us to educate voters on exactly, what the rates are and what the fair tax means for them and their families.
So proponents say when we watch those ads, 97% of Illinoisans will stay at the same or lower tax rate if this thing passes this year. But it raises this question based on ads from the other side. Is there a check or limit in the system that will prevent rates from being raised on all groups of income makers in subsequent years?
So our opponents love to fearmonger around this, but at the end of the day, let's talk about what Springfield has the power to do and what Springfield doesn't have the power to do. Currently, Springfield has the power to raise taxes at any time. They could call a special session and raise taxes on everyone. They could decide that they want to change the current flat tax from 4.95 to 6.95. And under the flat tax, the current system that we have, that 4.95 or whatever that new rate is that they set, 6.95, would be on all families in Illinois, regardless of their income level. Under the fair tax, the legislature does not gain any more power. They simply have the ability to raise taxes on those individuals who can afford to pay more, higher income earners, without keeping the burden on lower income earners who have been shouldering more of the financial burden and paying more of their income in state taxes than the top 1%. Just over the past, year alone in the flat tax, current voters, lower income voters have been paying 14.4% of their income in taxes, while the top 1% has been paying 7.4%.
Okay, so let me just press on that a little bit more, because the argument is, yes, Springfield doesn't like doing a tax raise now because it does, in fact, as you say, affect everybody. But it will be easier when you have these different categories to say, okay, we're going to hit wealthier people with a 2% raise, whatever that might be, making up a number, and then those who make less money, well, we'll get you with a 1%, or that it makes it easier to raise taxes on everybody because of that distinction you've talked about.
No, I disagree. I don't think that it makes it easier at all. I think that our opponents love to say that this fair tax gives Springfield legislature additional power, and that's simply not true. They are not gaining any additional power to increase taxes on voters than they currently have now. They can do that anytime they choose.
All right, the governor has warned that without federal assistance and likely without this new tax system, we're facing some real dire straits. Can you clarify what the consequences to Illinois would be if this new system, we'll put the federal money aside, if this doesn't pass?
So look, I think that the governor has already laid out the financial situation in the state of Illinois, and he's ordered his agencies to start looking at cuts. But unfortunately, our opponents also love to say that this is a spending problem. We have a spending problem. We don't. We have a revenue problem, and we need revenue to come from somewhere. And for years, it's been coming on the backs of lower and middle income families in Illinois, and we need the fair tax to shift that burden. If this doesn't pass, I'm afraid that the legislature is going to have to take drastic measures of more cuts. And unfortunately, there are going to be things that a lot of these middle and lower income families who would benefit from the fair tax depend on, the social services. We've seen that highlighted during COVID, how important these services are.
I'm sure you've seen ads on the other side that have retired people in them. Now, it is true that this plan does not tax retirement income or pensions, but is it correct that moving forward, the system could tax retirement or pension income?
Currently, retirement income is exempt through taxing, so it is not taxed. The fair tax does not change that. It has nothing to do with retirement income. The legislature would have to pass legislation to be able to tax retirement income. Our opponents love to say that to fearmonger and scare voters, but the reality is, if you just said, is that the fair tax does not tax retirement income, nor does it make taxing retirement income any easier.
But admittedly, I mean, these arguments, anything can happen in the future, right? A year, 2, 5 years from now.
Supposedly anything could happen in the future, but our opponents also say that, they're going to raise taxes if we pass this. It could happen tomorrow that they could raise taxes right now on everyone.
All right. So Illinois has lost a significant number of people. You know that. The concern is if we lose higher income people, higher earners over the coming days because of this tax, will that not mean that middle and lower income earners are going to have to, make up the fall, make up the loss?
No, and I think that that's a misconception, and it's just simply not true. If you take a look at California, where they have a top tax rate on millionaires of over 13%, they have more millionaires and billionaires that live in California than any other state in the country. So it's just simply not true. And in fact, if you look at the data on the individuals who are leaving the state of Illinois, it is not millionaires or billionaires or business owners. It is lower income African Americans who are fleeing, and it's because the tax burden is so high on them. And the reason that they're leaving is because we've cut a lot of the services and things that they depend on, and these tax burdens are high on them. But it is not the individuals who make over $250,000 or $1 million or $1 billion who are leaving the state of Illinois.
Quentin, less than a minute left, but look, we live in very hyper-partisan times, no question about it. Is there some way you think that this plan can reach across the lines, bring Republicans on board so that everybody sees this as a good thing?
Yeah, simply education. I think it's a matter of not following what your local elected official is saying. I think it's a matter of, seeking out what the rates are going to be, what you currently pay now. You can go to our website, www.voteyesforfairness.com. We have a fair tax calculator on there. You can plug in how much you make, how many dependents you claim. There are a lot of things that are baked into this law, child tax care credits. Look at what the effective rates are actually going to be, because odds are, in reality, even if you make over $250,000, that you're not going to be paying that, percentage given, when it boils down to what effective rates are. And also understanding that these rates are marginal. Just because you make over 250 does not mean your entire income is taxed over at that rate. It's just the portion that you make over 250. So I think voters educating themselves. All
right. Quentin Fulks, chairperson of Vote Yes for Fairness. Thanks for your time this morning, clarifying this program for everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. And it's still to come on the WGN TV Political Report.
think the American people should know what it means if the Senate shifts control.
Republicans sound the alarm about the consequences of the election. Can Democrats regain a majority in the Senate? We're going to take a closer look. But first, 20 years ago, he halted capital punishment in Illinois. We're talking to former Governor George Ryan about his new memoir and his complicated legacy in this state when we come back.
FanDuel Sportsbook,